Hi, welcome back to me, my bike and I. I'm back on the Toyota Aygo today, so the car, and today I'm going to be fitting an accessory and wiring it into the fuse box. And the reason I'm doing that is because I just do not have enough of these. USB sockets, of course, is what I'm talking about. So just looking at the front, what you've got here is just a single USB outlet. Got your 12mm cigarette lighter socket, of course, which you can stick a variety of adapters in, for example. And of course, just your little, what's that, 3mm pin thing. So when the kids are in the back, I have to do that and run lines back. So just coming all the way back here, it's not a problem, of course, running lines back, but my preference would be that the kids had power outlets in the rear when they're sat in the car. And there's nothing back here and not really much space to put anything. Really, it's such a small car. And the accessory I just showed you, I was hoping I could fit it right there. It looked like a perfect little spot. On the surface there's enough room, but I don't think there's clearance underneath when the brake lever is being operated. So I'm going to have to fit it down here, so that'll be okay, but I would have preferred it on top, but never mind. Anyway, I'm going to have to pull all of this out all the way up to the gear knob so that I can make a cutout in the center console there. What do you call that? Center console? Well, what you call it, the binnacle surrounding the brake lever. Run the cabling through and up to the front and around to underneath the driver's side, because that's where the fuse box is located. So for that you're going to need some fuse taps, or one fuse tap of the right size depending on your particular fuses, and you need to get a diagram of your fuse box so that you can figure out which one you're going to tap into. Fuses come in quite a few different sizes. These ones, let's just use a nice bright one that we can see, are what you call mini low profile fuses. If I show you in comparison to these really big old fuses here, these are the type that typically would have been used in cars back in the day, 90s, that kind of era, early 2000s. These sort of mini fuses that you get these days, and then the mini low profile, which is what I've got in my car. So just make sure you identify the size of fuse and by the relevant sized fuse tap, which is what this is. All it does is replaces the fuse that you've got in there. So you just pull the fuse out and then you plug this in its place, and then this has two fuse holders there and there. A much clearer shot to see what's going on with this. So essentially you've got two fuse holders which replace the one fuse holder that this will plug into. So this one is piggybacking as this taps into it. So what you do is you identify on your fuse holder in your fuse box which side is live. Now I've already had a little look, so I know it's going to be on the left as I'm looking at it. So it's this pin here that needs to plug into the live, and then you take your old fuse out if there's one fitted, because it might be a spare, and you replace that into here, the lower fuse holder. So the way the circuit completes then is that this picks up 12 volts, comes up to here, comes across this fuse, down this pin, and just recreates your circuit that you just interrupted, and then that just goes off to the device or component, powers it, which is then grounded against negative earth body of the car. So the way in which this works is this little piggyback here, the top one, takes power from here, carries on up to here, and in addition to going across to feed your original device, continues up here across the new fuse and then down through this cable here off to your accessory, which you would then ground to earth body of the car. Now, if you've watched a few videos of people doing this, they'll all tell you exactly the same thing, to be careful which fuse you piggyback off, because you wouldn't want to do it off something critical, because if something goes wrong, if the circuit suddenly decides to melt down, you might perhaps switch your fuel pump off, or the computer, who knows. But the wiring up to the fuse box is all of the same grade. It's not like you've got 5 amp wire for one thing and 20 amp wire for another. It's exactly the same. It just so happens that you fit a smaller component and smaller fuses to some of the circuits, so shouldn't really be a problem which one you piggyback off. In this instance, what I'm doing is I've picked a fuse that is not used. In fact, there's no fuse in there. It's fuse 19 on the diagram, and it's hot at all times, so key off, you've still got power to it, which can be useful if you're sat in the car and you want to power your devices and you don't want to keep the ignition on. So let's go take a look at the fuse panel, and I can show you which one I'm going to tap into. Right, we are now looking up from underneath the footwell of the driver's side. You can see the OBD socket there, and you can even see the fuse box there just behind the opaque cover. You can see all of the little fuses, so you just need to pull that cover off, and what you can see is fuse 19 right there. Can't remember which side was live now, so I will retest it, but just get your multimeter and put your positive terminal on one of the pins and the negative to the ground of the car, and if you get 12 volts, that's your live side, and then that's the side that you need to put your pin of your fuse tap into. And while we're all here and set up, I will just show you how you poke that in. It's nice and straightforward. Again, just make sure the left pin of the tap goes into the live side as you've determined it. And it's as simple as that. Strictly speaking, you can fit this round the wrong way, but if you do it the correct way, then you've got two fuses protecting two circuits. If you do it the incorrect way, you've then got both of these two fuses protecting the accessory, and if the original fuse blows, that knocks out the accessory too. So just make sure that you get it in the correct way, you won't have any problems. So this has got a maximum draw of 3.1 amps, so I need to fit a fuse that's smaller than that, so that becomes the weakest part of the whole circuit. So I'm going to put a 2 amp fuse in. And of course we don't need to put a fuse in here because there wasn't one originally, so power now will come up through this leg, across through this fuse and off and out to our accessory. These little female pins can be very tight, so you might just want to open them up with a small electrical screwdriver just to help ease them in and out, but you probably wouldn't be able to get the fuse out of the holder without removing this from the actual fuse box itself. So and I do actually use, I have used some of these little fuse pullers, but they're next to useless on these mini low profile fuses because there's really no kind of lips or ledges on them that you can get behind and grab, so you just have to resort to good old-fashioned pliers. Right, next job is to prepare all the wire. So this is 7.5 amp, and I haven't quite decided where I'm going to run the negative to yet, so that might be quite near the actual component itself on one of the bolts down where the handbrake is, or I might just run it back up to near the fuse box and find a bolt holding some wiring on the body there. There's a couple of things I've looked at, but what I'll need to do is just measure out some of this to see what length I need, so I'm going to very quickly go and do that. Okay, really tight for space here. You wouldn't believe how wedged I am. Anyway, fuse box, ground. I'm not sure what those two ground wires are, but if you look to the right, you can see there's another little spur, a tab, which I can just pull across and then stick one of these female blade connectors onto the end of my negative and slot it over there. Obviously that is what that is designed for, so I'm going to use it, and it's right near the fuse box. Perfect. That should do it. Just trying to bend that tab over. It's not easy. Not easy getting to it whilst I'm holding the camera is the problem, so might have to loosen off that bolt so I can get behind it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off this little plastic trim panel, then I can get to the bottom screws. There's a couple more further along, so I can take this whole panel off, and then I can much more easily get to what I want to get to. So let me just get what I need and get all that off. What I'm trying to do is loosen it off a little bit so I can get a little... There we go, that's loose. Now it's loose, I can get under there with a little blade and bend that over and get a little female connector onto it. Very difficult to get to. I don't want to take it completely out. I might be struggling to get it back in again. So anyway, I'm going to bend that tab over and then we'll take a look at it, see if we can get that little blade connector onto it. No, I just can't get my hands in there. I'm going to need to take the blooming thing off. Unfortunately, that's so annoying, but let me do that without fussing around too much with it. wants to come out. I've discovered it's not a tab that you can bend up, which is why I couldn't get behind it. It's an actual locating pin. So what I'm going to do is just use a different kind of connector behind that bolt. We'll have to make do with that. Never mind. Right, well, this is nothing like as hard as I'm making it look. I'm obviously making a right old meal of this. Anyway, I've cut my cables to length. I've checked the polarity of the voltage, so which leg of that fuse junction it's coming out of, so I can orientate this correctly. And I've got this all ready to fit this end, so I've got a bullet connector there to the end of the tap. This is obviously much longer, so it goes all the way to that bolt on the firewall. And so yeah, I'm just using this type of connector, which will just go directly behind the bolt because I haven't got a blade on that little piece to connect to, as I thought, because that bit at the end was actually just a locating tab anyway. So this should be absolutely fine. So I'm just going to go plug all this in, and then we can put all the plastics back, and then we can start stripping out the center console around the handbrake so that we can feed it through to there. And then I need to start making a hole in the plastics to fit the actual USB accessory itself. So let's get on with that. Let's get this plumbed in, and we'll move on to the next steps. Right, so we'll come back to the electricals shortly. Firstly, I'm just heating up the soldering iron because we need to cut out an aperture in the rear, what would you call it, console, the cup holder segment, you know, this bit, so I can fit this bit. I just need to make a neat hole in the plastics there, and I'm going to do that by basically hot knifing it. By hot knifing, I'm actually using the end of well, an electrical screwdriver. I've just chopped the end off in my soldering iron, and just getting that nice and hot, although I think I probably need to put a little bit of layout tape on this firstly. Make sure I get it nice and square, get the hole the right size. Okay, there's my layout mark, and I've measured everything up so it's kind of centered, level, square, got clearance for the cup holder. So let's go and hot knife that out. Hopefully you don't completely destroy it, otherwise I'm going to be sourcing a new one on eBay. Oh yeah, never use your pliers as a soldering iron stand. Okay, we are getting there. This is all cleaned up and squared up. I did use a couple of needle files and a reamer to finish that off. And the USB accessory is a really snug fit, so once that's in, it shouldn't come out. I probably will just fix it in with a bit of super glue, but I don't think it's necessary. All the wiring there is cut to length on the ends to the firewall and the fuse box, so I need to cut it to overall length so it runs back, and then just connect to it up to this properly so that I can release it when I need to. So let's go and get all the plastics out, and then we can start looking at getting this wiring in. We just go into the pin nearest that big fuse and touch against ground, just grounding it where I'm going to attach the negative end of that cable. Is a 12 volt feed, Anyway, just wanted to show you that so you could see which side of that fuse socket was live. So it's the side nearest to the big fuse on that panel. So that's the side that this left leg of this tap needs to slot into to fit it correctly. And then I'll just bolt this onto the firewall, bulkhead, whatever you want to call it, of the car, where that ready-made earthing point is, and then we can start pulling all the plastics out, feeding this through, cutting this to length, getting a connector on this, and then just fitting it all together. Okay. Bit of a reach on these, you do need some long extensions just because it's awkward to get in, and they can be a little tight, but these are okay. It's not that one there that you need, it's just this one over here. Lift up and out, make it more to disconnect. No. Okay, so this is where the wiring needs to come back to. Oh, and if you ever need to adjust your handbrake cable, that is where you do it. So, so the wires will run along here, just underneath that point there. You'll see it just goes through, and along there, all the way along, and this panel here. So nothing further needs to come out because this is very flexible. So I can run it kind of through and up and underneath to meet the fuse box. Probably can't even see that from this angle. So anyway, probably going to tape it to that. Might run it above it if I can, but I need to cable tie everything in. So anyway, I'll get that plugged in. I'll get the earthing point bolted on. So I'll start at this end and run the cables along and back, and that way we'll see how much we're left with, so we can cut them down and fit a connector on the end, and that's pretty much it. Okay. This is way harder than it looks. I need to feed this across or above something. To do is spend a little bit of time just making sure it's routed properly, so that nothing's fouling on anything, like you know, accelerator pedals and brakes. That's it. I just need to tighten the bolt up. I've got the wire running above this unit, and the tap just there, so I just need to plug that in, get it all tidied back. You can't see very much here, can you, really, but essentially that's the negative, that's the bit going to the fuse tap, and let me just get the fuse tap plugged in. Right, I kind of got it roughly in place. You can't clearly see it, apart from just there. And I'm just gonna snip it off about there. And now I'm just going to pull it back out and go put a connector on it. Safe pulling it out, I'll do it here I think. I suck at doing this, so probably not going to be a brilliantly put together job, but anyway, that is my connections all done. So I'm just going to go back to tidying up everything under there. So we can call that end done. Get the earth just bolted down, and then plug in the tap, because I haven't done anything yet because I didn't want to leave any live ends dangling or anything like that, cause some sparking. So that's almost complete. Just doing a bit of cable tying. That's that done. I'm just going to plug it in. But for now that's right. Okay. Taped it and tied it in a couple of places, so nothing is going to get in the way of anything important at all. That's the most critical thing, crucial thing I suppose, just to make sure nothing comes loose and dangles around, catches up on something, stops it operating, interferes, but it's all fine. So just need to connect this up. Probably got a little bit of spare length, but that'll be fine. Again, shouldn't interfere with the operation of the brake lever tool. It's just going to sit minding its own business, all covered up. Okay, give it another try. Oh, no, it's pushed him out that end this time. Oh, it's taken the... I told you I suck at this. It's taken the actual connector off there, so I might have to do something else with these, I think. So maybe what I might do is well, shortening this a tiny bit, because I think I probably have got a bit too much length there. Even though I'm sure I measured it up by the time you put everything in. It shows that it's still a bit long. I'm going to snip these off and I'm going to fit some bullet connectors. Right, I've got that redone. So what I do need to do is fit the accessory to the plastic piece before I connect these up, because obviously that goes in from the outside. So very quickly, before putting it all back together, I was just testing the power. In fact, I was testing the accessory first, so I plugged it in, connected my phone charger cable, and it was doing nothing. So I thought, I'll just test how much power I'm getting out of here, and I don't know if you can see that, nothing, 0, which you wouldn't be getting right this second anyway, because I've taken the fuse out of the tap, and I can see without even testing it. Let's test it anyway. I've blown the fuse. So it may just be that while I was fiddling with wiring, etc., and that could have been yeah, doing these connectors. It could have been while I was just fiddling around under there. I might have just have shorted it out. So let me just go and swap that out for another one, and we'll give it another try. No, it just blew. Okay, that one didn't blow, so hopefully. We also seem to have lights, so don't think I realised there were LEDs in there. And hopefully that won't be any kind of significant draw to kill the battery or anything like that. Shouldn't be a problem. Right, so let me plug my phone in, see if that works. Yep, we are charging. Anyway, fuse blew again, so what I might do, let's fit that in there firstly, nice and snug. Really don't think I need to glue that in at all. Anyway, what I might do is spend a little bit of time looking for a fuse socket that isn't powered, isn't live with the key off, because I didn't realise the accessory had LEDs and I don't really want them glowing and draining the battery when the car's sat overnight, because whilst it's only milliamps, there is going to be a current draw there that's going to drain some of the battery life, and yeah, if it's sat for a couple of days it could take it below cranking capacity, which would be an issue. So I think I'm just going to have another look over that fuse box and see where I can refit that tap for better use, and but in the meantime I'm just going to stick another 2 amp fuse in there. It's when I keep taking the connectors apart it just seems to short out, so well, not necessarily short out but just arc out, more's the point. And so I'm going to stick another fuse in there, get this refitted, and then we're done. Anyway, I suspect I keep tripping that fuse out because you just sort of arc these across accidentally, and that is what you're going to get, isn't it? It's a 2 amp fuse, and you arc that across, all of a sudden you've got a massive amp draw. Anyway, hopefully we're all good with this. Okay. Well, I think we'll call that job done.